Hey folks, welcome back to your host Brim Khan here at Raise Your Vibes. Today's podcast is about the topic of energy vampires. This one I've been wanting to do for quite some time actually, and kept putting it off, kept thinking about it, kept mulling it over, and then here we are today with this particular topic. Now, sometimes it's a bit tricky to know what an actual energy vampire is. We often have used this label quite frequently, if I'm honest, by a lot of us. And, you know, some of us don't really understand all the intricacies. Sometimes we can develop on that, we can add to that. The more we obviously get to know what an energy vampire is, because we might not realize it, we might have it in our friend circle, we might have it in our relationship circle. And we just perhaps haven't labelled it, or maybe we've labelled it but we've not labelled it correctly, and so forth. So let's go through what we mean by energy vampires, okay? Because not everybody will put themselves in this category, or maybe we do recognise some features but not all. All right, so here we go. So energy vampires are basically people, okay, who go out of their way, whether they do it intentionally or unintentionally or subconsciously, but they are somebody who, when you're around them, you feel drained. It could be your emotional, physical body feels drained. It could be that your aura feels drained. It could be that no matter what you're doing for this person, friend, relationship, whoever this person is for you, no matter what you do, whether it's giving up your time to answer a phone call, they're moving into a new place, new apartment. Maybe it's that person in your life, friend-wise, relationship-wise, they constantly need your time, okay? And they constantly need your attention. They constantly need you, okay? And they don't seem to care about the fact that you have other things happening. You've got other boundaries happening. You've got other aspects of your life happening. You might have your own family. You might have your own partner. You have your own job, you have various things happening around you. And this person will not care about that at all. They will not care about those boundaries. They'll not care about those relationships. If anything, they will want to be the 100% center of attention. Okay? And often when they sort of claw their way into you and into your life and into your surroundings and your network and your schedule, because obviously these people get to know your schedule, you'll find that they're very time consuming as well. Time is something that's so precious, and we often don't realize it, but it's so precious we can't always get it back. Okay, so when you are invested in somebody that is an energy vampire, that time that you've committed to that person, at the time your heart is thinking this is the right thing to do. That person, I feel sorry for them, I have sympathy for them, they're going through a tough time. You as somebody who has, human skills such as empathy and sympathy, or you can relate to the difficult passage of time they're going through. Maybe they're going through a bereavement, maybe they're going through a loss of a relationship, maybe they've lost their work or something's happened to them, maybe they're in hospital, whatever the situation is, you feel compelled to help them, okay? Now, that energy vampire, and like I said, this could be anybody. It could be your spouse, it could be your partner, it could be your friend, it could be someone from work, a colleague, it could even be a neighbor, right? They are draining you emotionally, physically, spiritually, all the way through that. And sometimes these individuals are not always easy to spot, okay? They're not. Now, sometimes when you sort of become aware of it, you can start to protect your boundaries, start to protect who you are. Maybe you shift your focus back to doing things for yourself, but that again is not always easy to do. So let's think about the different types of energy vampires that are out there, because some of them are not that easy to spot and some of them are, right? So say for example, one of them could be the role of the victim, okay? So this is somebody that enjoys being the victim. Woe is me, this has happened, I lost my job, I lost my house, I lost my colleague. Certain things will be spiraling out of control where they are constantly the victim all the time. And even if they're not the victim, they have that victim mentality. Okay, so there'll be a sob story and it will be tainted, it will be twisted, it won't always be accurate, it won't always be truthful. But this individual, whatever happens, somebody's bullying them, somebody's picking on them, somebody's giving them bad eyes, somebody is not letting them get a promotion, whatever the situation is, they have this mentality that they are the victim. They're innocent, they've not done anything wrong, the whole world is against them. That's their perception, that's their viewpoint, and it's very narrow-minded, but that's what they see. Okay, and this person will often be complaining very frequently, okay, and very loudly about their problems. Now, they will also scrutinize things explicitly, okay, and they will take your time telling you all about it, all about their woes, all about the things happening. And if you even dare to show some compassion to the other person, saying, well, I'm sure they didn't mean it this way, you'll see a very, very different side to that energy vampire, believe me. Okay. Another one, another role that they often play is the criticizer. So this is somebody that spends a lot of time, and some of these things obviously will go to in hand. Okay. So they'll spend a lot of time criticizing other people. So for example, in the job promotion situation, that person didn't get it, the other person did. They will spend their time criticizing that individual for all their flaws. There might not be any, but they will dig and dig and dig and dig till they find something. Okay? They will basically say nothing's good for them, nothing's good for anybody. They will keep finding fault with anything. Okay? Remind you of anyone? Think of friends, think of people that you've gone to a restaurant, to a cafe, and even though the food is immaculate, there's always that one individual that'll always send it back. This is not good, this is not up to standards, this is not great. Then they want a discount, then they want a refund, then they want freebies. They're always criticizing, even though the standards of that particular food are exceptional, okay? But they just can't help themselves. Or so we think. Okay. Now, another aspect is where they over dramatize things. Okay. They love to create drama. And I mean love to create drama. This comes from picking a fight with you. You said this about me. No, I didn't. You stated that. No, I didn't. I didn't even imply it. I didn't even state it. I didn't even hint at it. That's your narrative. So this individual will go out of their way to over dramatize things. And a lot of the time it's because this person wants a fight. They want to be in the middle of that catastrophe. They will want a fight. They want other people to pick on them, in inverted commas, bully them, in inverted commas. A lot of the time it's because they want other people to see them as victim. So this is like a game changer. It's a mind manipulator. And it's because they want support and they want help. They don't deserve it often, okay? But that's how they perceive it. They perceive themselves as victim. They perceive themselves as needing help. So if you've been kind, if you've been trying to help somebody in your life, and this individual picks up on that, well, you didn't show me that compassion. Well, you didn't show me that type of care. You didn't help me when I needed you. You did, and it's all negative accusations. And a majority of the time, it's not even founded because you have helped that person. You have gone out of your way to help them, but they cannot cope with the fact that you are now giving your time and your energy to someone other than them. Just think about that for a second. That individual clearly just wants you to their selves. Now, often when they make these accusations that, you didn't support me, you didn't care for me, you weren't there for me, and I'm sure some of you can relate to these messages, they've probably sound very, very familiar. This is where they're showing another area of the energy vampire. This is where they are, I think, key manipulator. Okay, they will manipulate your feelings or the situation to their advantage. Now, if this person happens to have a medical condition, they will use that. They will use that to their advantage because they want to be fussed over. They want to be the center of attention. They want to have someone focusing purely just on their needs and nobody else's. Now, it could be that you yourself, are suffering from some sort of medical ailment, but oh no, the other person's medical condition has to be more important, far more important than yours. So they're very, very crafty at manipulating and trying to gauge things in their particular way. Okay? And often they have a hidden agenda. So they will seek people for a particular ulterior motive. And sometimes that individual doesn't always know what that is till a long time later. Okay? So especially if you're in some form of close relationship or friendship with them, sometimes we don't discover these things till much, much later. Okay? All right. Another aspect that they could have is they're always thinking in a negative mindset. Now, most of us will have some sort of balanced overview with this. We'll have, our way of thinking. It's logical. Some of us are thinking about, okay, something didn't happen for us. It's okay. It wasn't meant to be. Don't worry. Another opportunity will happen to you. Maybe this wasn't the opportunity for you at this moment. Maybe another opportunity will happen to you another time, and so on. Okay? We have positive mindsets. Of course, if we're not offered a particular job, we're likely to be upset. We're likely to be sad about it. But we also can see the bright side to that as well. Okay? Maybe we're meant to get another promotion another time, and so on. Okay? But these individuals that are energy vampires don't think of it like that. They have that negative attitude, and sometimes they disperse it to the point where they mask it and you don't always see it like that. Okay? But they do have this very negative attitude towards life. And, they don't always see some of the potential risks, or they don't look at the optimistic side of things. They don't leave room for excitement or being happy. And they will come in a form of attack at you. If you're trying to support them and trying to help them come out of that negative mindset and say, hey, look, why don't you look at the bright side of life? Okay, to quote a famous phrase. They don't look at it like that. They really don't. Instead, they will keep focusing on the downside, and they will keep looking at things of, oh, it's always happening to me. This is always happening to me. Why is it always happening to me? Why am I always the one that doesn't get promotion? Why does my boss not like me? Why does my partner not like me? And so on. That cycle, again, like I said, it continues. Okay? This is where another aspect of that particular energy vampire comes in. They often will blame other individuals for things that are happening. Now, this is crucial, actually. Okay? And this is because they will not take accountability for themselves a lot of the time. So they will blame other people, they put fault at other people, even though they're the ones that are responsible for doing something. If they've damaged something, broken something, they'll blame you. They'll blame someone other than themselves. Okay? If they've gone for a job promotion, for example, they might not have the experience. Okay? They might have done really badly in the actual interview. They may have exhibited really bad leadership skills in the past, and they haven't shown, for example, some positive aspects for that. So when they've gone for the interview, understandably the feedback says, we think you still need to work on these particular aspects of leadership. We still think you need to be a more people person, and so on. And this individual will not register that. They will keep blaming and keep blaming and keep blaming circumstances around them rather than looking at the real picture of what's happening. Okay, so they will blame it on others. And the blame might be something like, my manager doesn't like me. My manager has something against me. I'm obviously not seen as being important, and I'm this and I'm that. And their ego takes part in them believing these very, very high values about themselves. And often that isn't true, I'm sorry to say. Okay, it's not true. Now, sometimes you might not be able to spot them with all those things that I've just said. Like I said, it could be friendships, it could be relationships. Sometimes we don't always see some of those signs, okay? But there might be others that you do spot. Now, again, we have to be tactful about this, because in our group of friends, we might have somebody that's like this, okay? But it doesn't necessarily mean that they're an energy vampire, all right? So this person wants to be the center of attention. See what I mean? It can be a bit vague, okay? Because you might have a friend that's just got a rather quirky personality. They like to be the life and soul of the party. That doesn't mean that they're an energy vampire at all. It doesn't mean that, okay? But majority of energy vampires that are really out there there's someone that wants to be the center of attention. They're the one that wants the focus. They're the ones that want the attention on them. They're the ones that want you to dominate the conversation, not from you. They want to be the one that talks all the time. And the focus is always on them. I can give you an example. Trying to talk to someone that's like this is very difficult. You might be engaged in a conversation with them where you are trying to say, oh, I know how that feels. And you're interrupted and told, you're not listening to me. You're not listening to what I'm saying. You're belittling me. You're ridiculing me. And the list goes on of the silly, very, very silly outbursts that they may make, which are not truthful, by the way. But because you've interrupted or stopped them from their barrage of, self-centered attention, they don't like it. You, on the other hand, were just saying, look, I relate, I get to you, I understand. Even if you were saying in that conversation, yep, nope. You're doing small talkative interactions, I guess, where you're just nodding. If you were there physically, you're nodding. Okay, they don't like it. They really don't like it, because the focus is not on them. You've distorted it. Now, social cues say that majority of us, we like the fact that we are listened to, we are heard. Okay, we have people that like to pay attention to us, and we have people that show interest in what our discussion is. But the other person doesn't like that. They really don't like that. Okay, so that's something to look out for. Another thing is where they basically will exaggerate or over exaggerate everything, and I mean everything. So when they're describing a scenario, it could be that they are making a very, very small, minuscule issue into a huge thing. This is where they're over-analysing, and over-analysing to huge perspective and aspect. Okay? They are trying very, very hard to get you to notice them, and they want your attention. They want to make something over sensational so that you're hooked. Okay? So that you're hooked, they've got your attention, and they've got your particular time and your particular focus, and it's not on other people, it's on them. And we don't realize sometimes that some of these individuals will start off slowly when they exaggerate, and then it gets to a point where their stories just seem too far-fetched to be truthful. Okay, and you have to take everything with a pinch of salt. So that's something that you have to be mindful of. Now, a core one is, as I mentioned earlier, is when they blame others for everything. Now, this is extremely, and I mean extremely, draining on the person that they decide to target. Okay, because obviously they're very clearly good at manipulating situations, and obviously nothing is their fault. I mean, how could it be? They're perfect. But they're very quick to assign blame to everybody else but themselves. Okay? And it could be various things. It could be the traffic outside. It could be, the meal at the restaurant had one extra pea on the plate, or one less pea, or the food is like too hot or too cold. I know we're sounding like Goldilocks here, but they will go out their way to make issues. Okay, so they will blame other people for actions that they are responsible for. In a work environment, this is quite dangerous, in fact, because obviously some of these individuals don't keep jobs down for long, okay, because they rub their colleagues or their boss, whoever, the wrong way. Okay, now when certain interactions happen, okay, you yourself will feel very, very, very drained. That's the best way I can put it. You'll feel exhausted. You'll physically feel exhausted. You'll physically feel drained. You physically feel lots of things. You'll feel confused. You might be disappointed. You might feel sad. That's because this person is taking up way too much time, exhibiting these emotions and feelings towards you because they've targeted you. Okay. And you sometimes don't see the impact it's having on your mental health and the impact it's having on maybe close people around you as well. Okay. And often, initially, they will do give and take. So, in that relationship that you have, it's balanced to begin with. But then slowly, the balance shifts. Okay. So the balance becomes more one-sided. And this individual will be taking from you rather than giving in return. Okay. So think about the scenario I said earlier. And I said about, like if you are ill, they will also play the ill card. Okay. Now it could be that you are having major surgery and clearly the focus is on you, right? It should be. You want to be calm before going into surgery. You want to be at peace. You want to be restful. You can't have your blood pressure spiking up. Whatever the situation is about your surgery, you need to be calm and you need to be at peace and you need to be okay. You don't want to be stressed and so on. And this individual will do everything they can to make it about them. Okay? They will ruin that situation. They will ruin the environment. They will ruin your peace. And sometimes you just think to yourself, why have I even bothered asking this person for help? Well, it's in dire situations like this when you really start to see that energy vampire for who they really are. It could be that you are unable to go to the hospital. You're not allowed to drive, maybe. Okay. You don't really feel comfortable maybe getting in a taxi or an Uber for various reasons. Maybe you're not quite with it. You just need a bit of support. Okay. And sometimes, obviously, with taxi drivers, when we've had surgery, taxi drivers, all fair and being, I'm not discriminating against taxi drivers, but sometimes they're in a rush. They don't always understand that you might need extra time, for example, to get into the vehicle, or that you need to avoid bumps or so on. Okay. Whereas someone that's in your family or your close circuit knows that you need that little bit of extra TLC and a little bit of extra care. Okay. Now, when you're in that situation, it can be quite difficult. You're having to rely on that energy vampire to help you out. Maybe other people are working, maybe if they've gone on holiday, maybe whatever the situation is, you're having to rely upon them because they're obviously close to you at this point for you to even ask them. And when you've then maybe got to the hospital or got to the appointment or gone for a checkup or even got into the car, a whole nother episode starts of, guilt tripping you, making you feel bad for asking them for help, because the tables have turned here. Okay. The tables have turned where you actually are needing them. You're actually needing support and you're needing guidance. And it's not that they can't give you the attention and the care and the help and the love and support. It's that they choose not to. All right. And this is where you start to see this individual for who they really are. They'll make up excuses. They'll make up scenarios. They will actually cause fights purely so that you don't ask them for anything. This is when you start to see some of the dynamics change. Okay? And it's not often easy to spot. So that's one thing you have to look out for. Years ago, I remember helping somebody through COVID times when it was quite bad and we had lockdown, and you know, some people's version of lockdown was more extreme than others. So I recall helping an individual from work and helping this particular person as they were about to have surgery. And it got to the point where I was actually teaching online beside this individual in hospital. I had to get special permission to do that from my employer. And I remember trying to look after her whilst looking after myself. And I would be there from, say, 6 o'clock in the morning, way before even my work would start. My work would start after 7 in the morning. But imagine going at that time and then the school day would finish. And in between, you're still constantly looking after and caring for this person, even though there's nurses around, even though there's people of care around. But they don't want that attention. They want that attention from you. They want you to be the one that's providing for them. And then the minute that I would leave, and when I say leave, I meant like I would leave late at night, or whether I had to go to the bathroom, or whether I was going to get myself a meal or something, you know, because obviously I have to be fed, you know. So then the phone calls would start and the text messages would start. And same as when I'd get home, I would literally have left the hospital, which wouldn't be far from where I lived. And the barrage of you know, accusations might come flying. You've left me alone, you've left me this and left me that. And you're like, what the hell? And even when that person has recovered and they're in a much better place and they don't need you as much, you know, you've helped them to reintegrate, you've helped them to get back on their feet, you've helped them to be able to be independent again, because it's not easy when obviously you've had surgery. The whole emotional sucking of energy continues again, you know, where they're constantly barraging you with phone calls or text messages or various things happening to you. And your work is suffering, your family life is suffering, because this person just will not take no for an answer. Okay? And sometimes in that particular situation with me, once I knew that that person was okay, i.e. they've recovered from the surgery, they're okay, they can be independent, I had to distance myself. In fact, I stopped answering the calls and I stopped answering the messages, and I really just backed off from that individual. And when they got back to work, I didn't even correspond with them, didn't even communicate with them, because I didn't want to enter that situation again. It was extremely unhealthy. It was extremely one-sided, and that person was exceptionally needy. And don't get me wrong, I understand why. I do understand why. But it was too emotionally draining, because they were in their energy vampire era. You know, it wasn't just the medical health side of things, you know. Now, often we're drawn to these people because we have empathy, you know. In our day and age, a lot of us are, you know, a lot of us are empathetic. Some of us will just straight cold-hearted no. We're not supporting you, not helping you. We're setting, you know, these sort of expectations and boundaries. So these are things you can, I guess, do, similar to what I've just explained, to help yourself and protect yourself and, I guess, get you through this situation. Okay? So you yourself, when this person is attacking you or wanting your time or wanting your energy, you might find yourself feeling upset, okay? Because they know the buttons to press, and they know how to trigger you, and they know how to get you to say yes instead of no, okay? And there are times when you really do have to learn that word no, and you have to step back and you have to protect yourself. And there's times you might just say, these are the slotted times I can help you, these are the times I cannot. Not responding to your phone, not responding to that person. I mean, nowadays that is so easy to do, because even on social media apps like WhatsApp, you can mute someone. So even though they're messaging you, you don't see it. Okay? Now that sounds easier to begin with, or harder. I mean, in my particular case, when I was helping this individual, I had to be careful that it wasn't anything medical related. Okay, so sometimes you might, for example, put your phone in airplane mode, just click on the messages, see what it says, but you've not clicked on it to read it. Just to put your own mind at rest. Some people might be just so cold that they don't even look at them. That's fine. It's not about being cold, I guess. It's more about being protective of you and your time, you know. The other thing you can do is you could block them for a certain period of time. Now, believe me, these people will find other ways to communicate with you. They will, if they know your access to certain things, for example, emailing you, ringing you, emailing you on a different network, trying to find you on social media, and the list goes on, because technology obviously has changed. Okay, you're trying to do this because you're trying to limit your exposure to that person. It makes it difficult if you live within the same vicinity. With the example I gave, I lived with the same person in the building, thankfully on a different area, but still they knew where I lived, they knew my floor number, and yes, they did pound on my door. Okay, so sometimes there are situations where you might, for example, ignore the door, because hopefully you've got people and you just choose not to communicate with that person and not say anything back, not open your door, not allow yourself to be in that energy and letting that person into your space, into your private space. Okay, because obviously they're not taking no for an answer. Okay, so setting your boundaries with that person, and it will vary from person to person, if I'm honest. You know, you will always be the best judge of what you think is the right thing to do. When you're working with that individual, it's very hard. As I said, I had to really back off. Even though we were in the same work environment, thankfully, because we worked in different departments, we didn't even bump into each other that often. But when we did, I would just walk the other side of where I was walking. I would try not to make facial contact, eye contact. If I did, I would just do a small little, like, not smirk, but like a little smile, or just have nothing. Okay, that was my way of dealing with it. And some colleagues knew what happened, so they were aware, because these people can also go running and say, oh, so-and-so's got a grievance against me, and so-and-so is bullying me, and and that's not true at all. Okay, but because they're in the victim mentality, they will say things. Now, the other thing that's quite hard is your emotional energy. You know, when these people have been in our lives, we don't realize that, because we're interacting with them, and obviously when they're doing their drama, and I mean drama, and they're making complaints and they're making derogatory comments and they're all negative, you don't realize how much it's impacting on your emotional energy. Your battery levels are basically depleted at this point. So sometimes it's best to just stand back, if we can, not react. And this comes to the argument stage as well. You know, a lot of them will argue for the sake of arguing. They will just want to argue because they want to have a fight. They want to have some sort of altercation so that they are the victim. You're the person that's targeting them. You're the one that's picking on them, bullying them. And obviously they've got a very twisted outlook, because it's not true. Okay, but their perception of it is true. So no matter what you do, you won't win that scenario, but they will have that perception that this is what you've done, and you know, you've picked on them, you're bullying them, you're arguing with them, and everything that, you know, if you've said that isn't true, this isn't the case, and what you're saying is basically a load of rubbish, they will also then fall into victim mode, saying, see, you don't believe me, see. And you know, they will basically antagonize you to the point where you are screaming and shouting at them, because that's what they want as well. They want to get you so mad that you will say, hey, you know, this is the situation. Sometimes saying no to that individual is extremely hard. And you can do that in the different ways that I've said earlier on, where you distance yourself, you say no. You just don't respond. Obviously there's implications for these things, as I've just said. You know, sometimes you end up with the person knocking on your door, wanting to have an altercation. So be mindful about the person that you're interacting with, okay? And be prepared, be the stronger person that doesn't let them into your space. It's not always easy to do that though, okay? It's not. Saying no is hard. And then the very, very last thing I would do if I was trying to get rid of an energy vampire in my life is to just totally cut them out. Now, if you're involved in a relationship with them, that's not as easy as it seems, okay? If it's a friendship, it's a much easier to do in a lot of ways. Friendship-wise, we can say to that individual, look, sorry, this isn't working out. I need to cut you out of my life. I need to just move on. I don't want to be friends with you anymore. Or you just simply don't say anything, and you just, from whichever aspect, don't respond to calls, don't respond to spending time with them or going round to their house, them coming to yours. You just totally avoid any family members, any friends, any contact. Like I said, I described a work scenario, and it's not as easy as it came to be. And that individual eventually left, which made things a lot easier, to be fair. Okay, but it's not always going to work out like that. Sometimes you're stuck with that person in the workplace, and it is what it is. Okay, you just have to be diplomatic, and you have to be professional in whatever field of work it is that you do. Okay, when it's someone that you've had a relationship with, sometimes it's not always easy to say goodbye. All of us will have a different way of dealing with that. All of us will have different aspects of dealing with that. And sometimes we punish ourselves more so by staying in that relationship when it's someone that we're invested in, you know. And this is what I'm saying to you, that these individuals make sure that they've selected somebody that, you know, deep down they don't want to remove. Okay? However, you'll start to notice it's having a huge impact on your mental health, your energy, okay? And you'll see that certain things you can't do anymore. You haven't physically got the energy. As and when you're able to let go of this individual though, what you do notice is the physical body of yours is just depleted, is drained, okay? And your own well-being and your own safety and your own relationship with yourself has to come first. And that's so hard to do. Okay? You'll feel like you could sleep for months. It's almost like you want to go into hibernation mode when you've come out with someone that is an energy vampire. Okay? There are lots of elements of an energy vampire similar to a narcissist that I talked about before, covert narcissists especially. Someone that might be like a sociopath, or someone who's just basically out to just, you know, belittle others. Okay? And it's not always easy to recover. And we have to spend that time within ourselves to try and recover from that. Okay? Some choices that we make us a bit wiser for next time. Next time we spot some of the signs a bit more clearly. Sometimes we spot the people that are basically leeches, aren't they? Okay, we spot that. That person, no matter what you do, isn't going to change. No matter what we try to do, you know, if you're thinking, oh, hold on, let's just show them, you know, another cheek, give them an opportunity. Well, sometimes they're not showing that side to them at all. Sometimes it's clearly a case of it's best to let go. And it's best to move in peace, and it's best to move forward, and it's best to just totally cut that person out of your life and move on. Not so easy when you have children with them. Not so easy when you're in a situation where you have financial ties or whatever it is, okay? And obviously in those more serious situations, you do need to see professional help. You do need to see a marriage counsellor, guidance counsellor, divorce attorney, whatever the scenario is appropriate to you, because removing that person isn't going to be plain sailing. It's not, sadly. And you do need to seek help, and you do need to get guidance, because you can't do this yourself. And one of the things that an energy vampire goes out of their way to do, which you know, sometimes You don't realize that it's happening. They try very, very hard to detach you. Very, very similar to the covert narcissist. They try to remove your friendship circle. They'll belittle it. They will try to destroy it. They will try to remove some friends because they don't want you surrounded by people that will spot the signs of what they're doing. When you're emotionally invested in an energy vampire, you don't see it. You don't see what they're doing. But others do, you see. Other people spot it and will say to you, that's not acceptable. This particular individual shouldn't do that to you. This person shouldn't treat you like that. Why are you always drained? You know, they might make comments like that. Or they might say to you, hold on a minute, that friendship or that relationship is always one-sided. Why is that? So these true friends will bring those things to light, and sometimes we don't often want to hear it. Okay, so it's important that your true friendship circle remains intact, because you're going to need them when you come out of this. You're going to need them for support. And true friends are always going to be around. True friends will have your back. True friends will support you and will help you guide through it and will help you recover. Because obviously recovering from somebody like this takes some time. You know, your energy levels are so depleted that you can barely look after yourself. So that road to recovery is quite a long one and a challenging one, but one that's needed. So I really hope that this discussion has helped you sort of zoom in and focus on people that you wouldn't necessarily label as, vampires, especially emotional vampires, but perhaps you can spot the signs a bit more. Perhaps you understand who these individuals are a bit more. Like I said, you take it with a fine-tooth comb and, you're able to identify them clearly and you know what to do now. Okay? So wherever you are in your particular aspect of life, if that person comes along, you know what to do. You know how to get out of it. You know how to move out of it. Maybe you're in it. Maybe you don't realize. Maybe you do realize, but you're just thinking how best to get out of the situation you're in. Wherever you are in that journey, I wish you all the best. And to all the empaths out there, keep rocking on. And to the emotional vampires out there, you have quite a lot of growing up, obviously, to still do. That's all for now. This has been Miriam Khan at Raise Your Vibes. Thanks for tuning in.